Next up in our interviews, we have Sharon Farrell. Sharon was an actress that appeared on Match Game for 3 different appearances. She appeared first in 1978 on the premiere week of the Star Wheel introduction. She then appeared later on in the series on the new set in the final season, season 3 of Match Game. Sit back, listen to her story, and enjoy.
Is it your niece that I first interacted with?
Yeah.
So
Karen, it's my niece, yes.
I was amazed and blown away when she there was some sort of a comment where she said that, oh my God, that's my aunt from back from Match Game in like 1981 with this amazing dress that I think you made for Betty White.
Yeah.
And long story short is I jumped on, I said, oh my goodness, if you know Sharon, I mean, I would love the chance to talk to her about her time on the show and just appreciate getting a chance to hear all about just being on the show and just being an awesome celebrity. I mean, you have some amazing moments that are just on the show that I don't think a lot of people have probably realized it. Maybe you didn't realize it either.
You got it. I really didn't. It was weird being on the show. It was scary.
Yeah.
But it was also liberating.
Yep.
But it was scary because there was no script.
Right.
And all of the people on those shows, I mean, all of those people that I worked with, all of these wonderful and they were actors. I mean,
yep.
Charles Nelson Riley did something like 13 movies. And
yeah.
all kinds of television shows and everything. I mean, they had done more things than I had, and Gene Raymond was introducing me as a movie star, and it's like, goodness gracious. I mean, Bill Collins, he was like the Frank Sinatra of
game shows,
talk shows.
Yep.
Hosts,
yep.
Yeah,
you got a chance to be on with, I think, Bill Cullen. That was one. You got a chance to be on with, you actually mud wrestled with Richard Paul.
Oh, and he could do dialects. He didn't do any dialects or anything, but in between the show, while we were shooting, he would be doing W.C. Fields, and then he would be doing, he would go down a list of, his voice could imitate anything. And he did a lot of movies, and I think he won awards and everything else,
But
too.
my generation, I grew up and I remembered him on the show Full House. He was, I don't know if you've ever seen Full House, but he was, I think, the boss of Danny and Becky at the time. And I'm like, wait a minute, he's been on Match Game before. I remember Richard Paul.
Yeah, I mean, he did nothing on Match Game. I mean, I was watching him, and I thought, gosh, this guy's like really a fabulous actor. I mean, I think he did A Face in the Crowd. I mean, he did some movies that were incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, the talent that was there.
There was really a lot of talent there, and there was Charles Nelson Riley. I mean, because he was always trying to cover his head up because
he was because of the wig and everything. Yep.
And that's why he's wearing all those hats and stuff.
So I guess my first real question that I wanted to ask you about the show was on from 73, and then you first came on about mid 1978. And I don't know if you remember it at all, but you came on the very first week where they introduced that Star Wheel. They had a wheel that you spun and everything. And the gentleman sitting next to you, that was something that he didn't enjoy. That was Richard Dawson.
Yeah, Richard Dawson.
And Richard was just not happy with this wheel at all. And it was an historic week that you were on because the whole format of the end game, the contestants were mainly picking Richard. Now they brought the wheel in, and you were on this very first week where it's like, hold up, the show's now changing everything. So it was, in a way, it was that jump the shark moment on the show. And you came in, and this whole new game and everything started. So the tensions must have been a little higher, I guess, when you first came on that show that week. Maybe not.
I don't remember Richard Dawson ever complaining about anything.
I know it was the very first week, so maybe he was putting on that faith.
I didn't know what I was doing, and I didn't really know who anybody was.
Mm-hmm.
I really didn't know who anybody was until I started watching the shows, and I started, ever since you sent me all those shows,
yep.
The only one I really remember was Betty White.
Right.
Because I had a girlfriend who was a designer, and she had designed these clothes for me.
Yep.
And we shot a week in one day.
Right.
So we were running and changing clothes, and I figured if I had something to wear, I could like laugh or talk about it. If I have nothing to talk about, I can talk about my clothes, like,
and stand out in a way and kind of make
I don't
yourself
know.
known.
It was like scary. I didn't know what I was doing.
Now the first week when you were on, I was looking back on the episodes and everything too. Did you realize I think it was the third show that you did, and this was in '78, you actually had a bathing suit on for one of the weeks that you did. I just got a kick out of that. I thought that was hysterical. You wore a bathing suit on the third show.
I was wondering, I think I stood up, and it's like, what was I wearing on the bottom? Did I just go out there in my bathing suit? But I don't remember doing that.
Yeah. I thought that was very creative.
I wore a bathing suit a couple of times, a bathing suit top.
Yeah.
And then I had a jacket over one.
Yeah.
And it was like trying to find clothes, 5 different outfits for the week, or 7 or whatever it was, and it's like, we didn't make any money on it. We made like nothing.
Yeah.
Was
it more going on the show to kind of build your career up in a way, maybe to get a spot on a show or movie?
Yeah, it was.
So did you have an agent at the time?
I have no idea. I don't remember.
You don't remember. So how did going on Match Game start?
I was hot during that time because I was working and I was doing movies and stuff, and they kind of track you down. And I think Betty White was the one who kind of got me started and everything.
Did she? Okay.
And she's still alive.
Isn't that amazing?
She's incredible.
Just amazing.
She's so
I think
adorable.
she's 98
I
right
hope
now.
She's not in any pain or
still working and everything. It's just amazing.
Anything,
Yep. So Betty was probably somebody that you were probably the most close with when working on the show. Yeah.
I was, but I'll tell you, Dick Martin was like really, really nice.
Yep.
And it's like, it's was like I didn't know what I was doing, but I would like try to the first thing that came into my mind, I would write down.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I was okay. Sometimes I would say the right thing. But if I didn't, I just tried to come up with something else or tried to make fun of myself. I kind of laughed at myself. And in those days, goodness gracious. Well, Gene Rayburn was like very kind of chauvinistic and kind of was getting people to look down my top. And
how was that? Did that make you feel uncomfortable?
Kind of, he wouldn't be able to get away with that today.
No, never.
Because it was like it was really uncomfortable. He made me feel the most uncomfortable on the show. Did he? Yeah.
From what I've seen, it was a different time, different era and everything, but in this day and age, if that was happening now, I mean, I would think that he'd have lawsuits up to the you know what for
Oh,
the
golly,
touching,
yeah.
the kissing, and all that kind of stuff.
He kind of got gross, you know. He
Yeah.
really, I mean, at one point he was trying to get me to bounce up and down, and I think I grabbed, what was his name? Richard Paul. I grabbed him and I kind of wrestled him to the floor instead of bouncing up and down, because he wanted me to have my boobs bouncing up and down, you know?
Right. Right.
And I don't know. It's amazing that that people liked him on that show. He had an incident though where somebody told his age.
Correct.
And he got into, I don't know, they kind of like, it was like age discrimination.
Yep.
Which I don't know whether they'd be able to get away with that today, you know. But it's so funny because Richard Paul, we were born the same year. We were the same age.
So were you close with Rick? Did you at least know him as a friend or from afar from before doing the show?
No.
Just from doing the show,
all my, you know, he was just doing accents and stuff in between.
Yeah.
You know, when somebody else was doing something else, he would lean down and say something to me off camera, you know.
Yeah, because I think
like
on the show,
he was like entertaining me, you know. He was
very entertaining, very, very entertaining. And he got welcomed back quite a bit because it looked like he played the game well, enjoyed himself, had a good time.
Yeah, did he
had
ever do
the
any
best of it.
accents or anything like that? Did he ever do any of his accents?
He did. Yeah, I know that from when he was on the show, he was doing a show. It was short-lived. It was called Carter Country. So I think he was coming on because of that show in a bit. But he just, as a guest, he filled in so well and played the game. I think they kept inviting him back to enjoy it.
Yeah.
And I think on your end, I mean, I know you did the show in 78. Then it looked like you took I think you took 2 years off and then came back towards the end in 1981. And it looked like you did such a nice job.
He was on MASH.
Yes.
He was on Murder, She Wrote.
Yep.
He did some of those shows. And he was also, he was in The People versus Larry Flint.
Yeah,
remember that? It was like a movie, and I think
he was in movies.
Woody Harrelson, and he played this pornographer, or not pornographer, but he was like editor of some Hustler magazine or something.
Yep.
And I think he was up for some kind of an award for that. But I'm not sure.
It kind of does ring a bell to me too. I mean, he was so talented, and then he
was
passed away.
And it was like
very tragically.
Gene Rayburn said at one point, "Oh, Sharon's a real movie star. We don't have many of those." And it's like everybody there had done 25 times more work and really important things on Broadway, and you know, I mean, gosh. That Charles Nelson Riley, I mean, he had an incredible career.
Yes, he did. He was a director. He even was away for a little bit on the show too, because he was busy directing and somebody else sat in his seat. As a matter of fact, I believe Charles was away that last week. No, the second week he came back, Dick Martin sat in his seat.
I can't remember.
So Dick was up on the top portion, and then next to you, because it was different, Richard was there in 78. You had McLean Stevenson on the bottom chair next to you. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah, he was adorable. He was adorable. He was like really sweet and nice.
He seemed like he was very down to earth. In a way, was he kind of your protection from Gene?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I had a feeling. Yeah.
Well, you know, Dick Martin was protection from Gene too.
Right.
Dick Martin protected me, and McLean did.
Yeah.
And even who was I sitting next to? Oh gosh.
It must have been Richard Dawson.
Richard Dawson even protected me from him. And Richard Dawson, I mean, he was kind of notorious for hugging and kissing on
Oh,
women.
yes, he was.
He
Oh,
was,
yes, he was.
he kind of got out of line a lot, you know,
Yeah.
on some of the shows that he hosted some show where
Yeah,
he
he
was
Family Feud he went on
like
to do.
chewing on girls' necks and stuff. I mean,
They would call him the Kissing Bandit.
yeah, did they?
Yeah, that's exactly what they called him.
Well,
Yeah.
they got him right.
Yeah.
They got him right.
But it's
But,
definitely that vibe that you said with Gene, with trying to push the envelope a little too far with the guests that came on. I could definitely sense it from not just you, but some other people that I've
oh
talked
yeah,
to
other
there.
gals.
It's like, oh, wait a minute.
I wasn't the only one. It
No,
was
you
like,
were not. No, 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 not at all.
did it to like, no.
I think the next person that came in after you was the one that I think like Lonnie Anderson came in at one point, and forget that they needed the buckets to wash him down with everything that he was going to do with her. But you know, there was Fannie Flagg, there was Elaine Joyce, there were all these people that sat in that fourth chair right next to him. And you could tell that there were moments where it's, okay, Gene, you know, I don't want to be touched. Like, can we play the game, please?
He probably didn't mean a thing by it.
No, I don't think he did either.
But he didn't know how he affect. Well, you know, it must be hard to be a host, you know.
Well, especially I know at the time, Match Game was starting to fall out of that #1 daytime show in '78, around there. So they probably wanted him to do some things that could drive the ratings up a little bit. And they may have wanted him to push the envelope a little bit more.
Well, when they did that, when they did the audience participation where...
Yeah, the super match, yep.
I don't know. That was... I don't know whether those shows were very good. When the audience started repeating back to him, you know, they'd say, you know, how
dumb is she? Or
yeah,
they had like an ugly Edna was so ugly.
How dumb she is, you know.
Yep.
Yeah, it was like, I guess they were just trying to like get the show to be better and better, you know. I think everybody was just trying their best to be their best, you know.
Right.
You know, we had no scripts or anything.
Right.
So
that's what I found so remarkable.
So it was like easy for them to make me like the dumb blonde, you know, and it was easy for me to like go into that category of being a dumb blonde, you know.
Yep.
So, you know, and try to like sneak out of things. I mean, Richard Paul helped me, you know, because I instead of jumping up and down, and of course Betty was,
he held you down.
Betty was so funny because Betty would like, she saved me a couple times too, because he was harassing me and then she'd jump up and down.
Well, she loved to show off her. I know. Well, that dress, the dress that was made, did you make that dress for her?
No, I didn't do it. It was a girlfriend of mine.
It was beautiful, because I believe you had a black one. Betty had a pink one.
I had a red one.
Yep.
And then I had that pink thing. Pink thing that went over my head. I wish I had that still. I'd wear it now.
It was beautiful. It was beautiful.
I still have.
The designs were incredible.
Yeah, she was talented. I wish I could find that girl. I thought she was so talented. She used to do designing for a couple of shops in Beverly Hills. But
it looked like Betty.
She was a French girl. I don't know what happened to her.
It looked like Betty really enjoyed the gift. It looked like she was beyond appreciative of the special token that you gave to her.
Well, I'll tell you, she made it fun.
Yeah.
She let me, she would put anything on. I mean, I'd say, Betty, come on, put this on. She'd say, okay, okay.
Yep.
She was like she was fun. She was like real girlfriend.
Yeah.
I haven't had that much fun since I ran into Dolly Parton in a ladies' room.
Yeah.
And she recognized me, and of course I recognized her.
Mm-hmm.
And she was so much more beautiful in person than she is on the screen.
Mm.
She's,
I've heard a lot of people say that. Yep.
She's got this little waist, and she's really beautiful. I remember Richard Dawson sort of. That's the first person that I kind of remember like watching some show. I never watched Match Game. I never saw it ever before I went on it, and I really didn't see those shows until you sent them to me.
I'm amazed that all these episodes are still around. That's what I can't believe.
Oh God.
And the popularity is through the roof.
It is amazing.
The channel that I created,
it's great because it's like it brought back a lot of memories for me because in 1970 I had a baby and I had an embolism and my heart stopped for 4.5 minutes, and I didn't remember anything for like about 3 years. I had to learn how to walk and talk, and
oh my goodness,
I couldn't even write my name. And everything eventually comes back to you, but it's like for a while. I mean, I was really hot because I had done the Reavers with Steve McQueen.
Yep.
And they wanted me for all these different movies. I couldn't work because I was like,
oh, I'm so sorry that happened. I know.
Was really damaged. My brain was gone for a while. And I went through all kinds of therapy and all kinds of stuff. But in the meantime, I did a lot of shows. I did Carol Burnett. There was a gal that played her sister on the Carol Burnett show.
Was it Vicki Lawrence?
Vicki Lawrence, and she had a talk show. And I went on her talk show because of my memory thing. And she had psychics and all these type people on there. And they knew a lot about me. It was like really weird.
Well, my notes and everything that I did, I mean, I saw that story about the embolism and everything, and that took me back, and it said, oh my goodness, the challenges that must have done for you and your career at the time.
Oh, well,
I felt terrible when I was reading that stuff. My career. It's remarkable.
It's like if you're in a football game, or if you're like playing baseball, and it's like if somebody catches the ball, you're out. Right. It's like it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how good you hit it.
Exactly.
If somebody catches it, you're out.
You're out. Yeah. So, I'm a big sports player, so that's a great analogy. I was big in baseball and everything like that. But it's a great analogy of just the life and everything that you've had to go through and live.
Yeah, but I'm still here, and I'm
still are here. You look tremendous. I must say that.
Well, I'll tell you something. I tried to let my hair grow out because I thought it would be white. My sister has white hair.
Yeah. And
she's 2 years younger than I am.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought my hair would be white, and it wasn't. It was just like dark brown.
Yep.
So I put blonde streaks in it because I couldn't stand this brown hair.
Right.
I mean, I'd been bleaching my hair since I was like probably 12 or I don't know, whenever my mom could like probably get rid of that brown hair I had. And I would go from blonde and then I would go red. My mom had red hair.
Yep.
And I had red hair in my family. So it was easy. I looked good with red hair and I looked good with blonde hair, and I'd go back and forth.
Just back and forth.
And I let my hair grow out and it was like this brown. And I thought, And my son kept saying, you'll work a whole lot more if you let your hair grow out and let it get gray. And
all about the look.
It's not gray. It's not gray. It's like brown.
Yep.
So I like last week I went and I had it was so funny because the guy that did my hair, he was wearing a mask, but he had his mask down here.
Oh, down to here, so his nose and everything was showing. Yeah.
Out. And I thought, I don't care. It's like, if I'm meant to get coronavirus, I'm ready to go. I've lived long enough,
But the whole project that I've done, just amazing, from just my mother's love of the show, it developed into this channel where we have all the episodes up there for people to remember their times on the program. And one of the projects that we're working on is any living contestant or celebrity or anybody that was associated with the show getting a chance to talk about their memories and time that they had on it, so we can have that as a special tribute, to the people that have participated on Match Game. I mean, everybody loves what the show has been. I mean, it's been on for almost 50 years, and I'm amazed at just the audience that it's blown up with. We're almost at 50,000 people that just love watching the show and enjoying it. And this is my little gift that I'm going to give to my mom as a way of just continuing her legacy and a nice little tribute for all the
I love
special times we had.
Gene Rayburn. That
Amazing story.
That's a great story.
And she had a whole different perspective on him because she saw a gentleman, she saw somebody that was just so down to earth and just a lovely, warm man.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, when you're in the limelight, sometimes you kind of have to change.
Oh well, there was no script, and he,
Right.
they were probably talking to him through some kind of earphone or earpiece or something like that. But poor guy, he was like thrown out to the wolves. He was just thrown out there. I mean, because we had no script. None of us. Here we were, a bunch of actors, all of us.
Yeah.
And we were just trying to play this game that was kind of goofy, to be honest.
Yeah, it was kind of lame, the format. I mean, without it being funny, I'm sure the show probably would not have lasted.
Well, it was like really weird because there was one point where they went to everybody, and Ruth White was on the end, and they never got to her. They just ignored.
Basically, the contestant could choose,
and it was like our answers were like, how we ever managed to get the same thing that the person got was like incredible. It was like, did you end up looking at Richard's card or McLean's card and be like, oh, that's good, I'm going to take yours?
Yeah.
I was it's like I couldn't think of anything, and then I'd look at his card and it would be like a doghouse, and I'd say, oh, okay, so I could say outhouse, or I could say, because half the time I didn't even get it.
Yeah.
I didn't even understand what was happening. And also, that wasn't that long after I had that. I mean, I had the embolism and everything in 1970.
Yeah.
So I wasn't really all together. I really needed to memorize a script,
And to know what you were doing. Yeah. There was a very funny moment on one of the shows in 78. It looked like you were having trouble getting the card out of the slot to show your answer. And Richards, leaned over and was like, oh, let me help you with everything. And he kind of got a little close. You can see on that moment, you're like, wait a minute, back up there, buddy. Well, I never knew what they were going to do, what anybody was going to do, Right. Plus, we were all talking and chatting. It's amazing you didn't hear us. Yeah, I think that they had some sort of a way that they could shut the mics off. I don't know. They and then I remember there was one actress, was it Edie McClurg? Oh my God, she had a laugh that was like. Yeah, she was on the last week you were on the show. She sat in Betty's seat. She was drunk. It looked it. She was drunk. She was like out of her mind drunk. But I could understand how, I mean, I was like nervous and scared, and she was like drinking. So did you tape, I don't know if you remember from it, but was it tape 3 shows, then take a dinner break, and then come back and do the other shows? I don't remember eating anything. How about drinking anything? No, I don't remember. I don't, we didn't have bottled water then either. Yep.
I don't know. I don't remember. We probably drank a lot of coffee.
Yeah. I know. I don't. Do you remember Brett
I don't
Summers?
know how many. I don't know how many shows we did. I can't remember exactly. I think we were paid. We weren't paid very much. I think we were paid minimum, but I'm
Yeah.
not sure about that either. I just don't remember all of those details.
Do you remember on the top there was Brett Summers? I don't know if you had any sort
Yeah,
of memory
Brett
of Brett.
Summer.
Yep.
Yeah, she was. She kept talking about her husband,
Yeah. Jack Klugman.
Klugman.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know what she ever did.
Yeah. Her claim to fame really was Match Game.
Yeah, that was it. And I don't think she was very funny or anything. I
Very
think
blah.
I think they had some deal with Jack Klugman because he had some show on and
Well, Jack originally was on the very first show. Jack didn't want to become a regular on the show. This was back, I think, 73. So he invited his wife in to do the show. And as a matter of fact, she kind of did really well her first week. They invited her back, but she sat in your seat on the bottom tier at the very beginning. She wasn't in the top seat on the panel.
I didn't know that there was like an echelon of like top people.
You have your top end and you have your bottom end.
Well, yeah, that's embarrassing because Betty White should have been on top.
She should. Betty
Good
filled in for Brett
Lord,
a couple
she was
weeks.
the best thing they
She
ever
was
had on
wonderful.
the show.
Everybody who I talk to just says how loving, down to earth, just
Oh,
the funniest, most giving person was Betty White on the show.
oh, she's so nice, and she's nice to everybody.
Oh,
She's, I mean, Brett, she was kind of a bitch.
she. That's the
She was
mentality a lot of
bitch.
people have. Yeah.
She was a
Yep.
bitch.
Yep.
And of course, that Edie woman was like out to lunch because she, who knows why, but she was like drinking.
Yeah,
So,
she came on the show that very final year, 1981, and for some reason they liked her, and she kept coming back more and more, and I don't know why. She's not one of the more well-liked celebrities, I should say, that was on the show. She's probably still a sweet woman and everything, but she definitely was obnoxious.
well, I
A lot
think
of
she's
people, that's what
dead.
they use
I
the
think
word
she's
for her.
dead. I don't think.
I heard last she wasn't doing well, but I think she's still alive.
I don't think she's alive. None of them are alive.
I know
Bill
Richard
Collins,
passed, Brett and Charles.
Bill Collins was trying to stop smoking at the time.
Yep. He
stopped smoking.
That was a sad story because a lot of people at the time didn't really know smoking could lead to lung cancer or all these problems.
Yeah.
So they lit up like a chimney.
He was just like, he had cigarettes. He had 4 or 5
yep.
of them going at the same time.
Because it definitely seemed like smoking was something that was on the show, when you were on there and everything. And, you could tell some were more reserved and didn't want anything to do with it. And then some were like, oh, let's just puff away and enjoy.
Yeah. Yeah. Those were the days. Well, those were good days,
I know when the show ended, it had some other another versions happen. So they revamped the show in 83 and 90, but were you ever asked back to come on the show after it ended?
Yes, I was, and
Yep.
I couldn't do it because I think I was out of town doing a movie or something like that. And I was doing like a lot of Johnny Carson shows. I was doing like a lot. I did a lot of game shows.
That was my other question I was going to ask too is, what other game shows did you get a chance to do and enjoy?
I did Hollywood Squares.
Okay.
And I loved it because I loved Vincent Price. And
yeah, he was a hot
I got
ticket.
to sit next to him, and he was great because he gave me all the answers.
Oh, did he?
He gave me, if I had a problem with something, he would speak me an answer. So he was always like funny and good. I liked him a lot.
Did you ever meet anybody else on Hollywood Squares that you had some sort of a connection with?
I
Maybe
can't. I
Peter
mean,
Marshall. Do you remember Peter Marshall, the host?
yeah, yes.
Okay. And then, of course, Paul Lind, who was the center square at the time.
Yeah, he was funny.
He was a funny man.
Yeah, he was funny. And he was nice too.
Yeah.
Everybody, there really weren't any actors or actresses that were really mean. The only one that was kind of mean was that Jack Klugman's wife.
Brett Summers. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
she wasn't like very nice.
You're not the only one who says the same on her. A lot of people just think that she just was not a friendly woman.
It was somebody, like so funny because she had that hairdo where it was like she looked like a.
And then she wore those dark glasses to make her look even more like, you know, a Cruella de Vil type.
I know, it's weird. Well, she had a good old career because of her husband.
Yeah, she did. She really did.
Because, you know, it's like she was on all the time, that show.
She never would have had that show without Jack. Never would have had the show.
No, she really wouldn't have. And I think everybody kind of knew that too, because it's like they were always talking. I mean, they made remarks about him all the time, you know.
All the time. He was the punchline.
And it's like she had to eat it, you know. She was just sitting there like had to take it, you know.
Yep.
So that must have been hard for her, you know, maybe.
She probably enjoyed it, taking a shot at him or something like that. She could have.
Take it from wherever you can get it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe.
So you did Hollywood Squares. Was there any other shows that you remember doing?
Oh, I did the dating game. And
you did? That must have been. Did you ever go on a date with one of the contestants?
I think so, but I don't really remember. I don't really remember that much at all. And there was like there was some game show where you go on with somebody you're married to.
Tattletales.
Yeah, I think I did that.
Okay. That must have been, I think that was with Bert Convy. If that rings a bell.
You know, it's like if I wasn't working, I was always doing something, you know.
Mm-hmm. But for the most part, you enjoyed going on the game shows.
I did a lot of Johnny Carson shows.
How was that to just get a chance to go on his show? That must have been thrill of your life to go on Johnny Carson.
Well,
maybe stressful too.
It was mostly because I was like promoting a movie, you know, and they'd set it up and then go on.
Yep.
You know, it was like it was just part of the stuff you do.
Yep.
And then I don't really. I was on there and I was upset because I had done a movie with Steve McQueen. Mm-hmm. And I was supposed to go to Sioux City, Iowa to promote the film. And they decided in Sioux City that they didn't want the film. They didn't want to film there. And I was like really hurt by that. Mm-hmm. And I was on Johnny Carson and I said something about, well, nobody goes to movies in Sioux City anyway. They go over to South Sioux City, mm-hmm. which is in Nebraska, and they see Around the World in 80 Ways, and they see all these porno films.
Right. That's what I
said exactly. They don't want to see a nice movie like mine. They want to go. They want to go over to South Sioux City and see some piece of trash, you know. Yep. And of course, Johnny jumped on that because Johnny was from the Midwest, and he disliked the hypocrisy and everything of the people of the Midwest, or mm-hmm. you know, I don't know. He had me on a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, he practically wrote scripts for me he gave me, you know, information about, you know, like what, you know, I don't know. And
so he must have been an amazing person in your life, and you probably struck a friendship with Johnny Carson.
Well, He was in love with his audience, and if the audience, he watched his audience. He would do anything to get a laugh.
Right.
And you know, it's like he used you like as a prop, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, he was like nice and everything, but he always had his eye out on the audience, and if the audience liked you, then he liked you.
Right.
I don't know.
You must have been well liked within the audience.
It was kind of a cold friendship, you know.
Yeah, but the audience must have responded well with you for him to ask you back and to
Yeah,
do
because
more
I was never afraid of making a fool of myself, and I think it was during that time I was like afraid. I mean, I was afraid to say no to anything.
Right.
You know, I wanted to
You
work,
probably never
and
knew
I
if it
had to
would
get
lead to
back to
something else.
work, and if just game shows and Johnny Carson, if those kind of shows were the only shows that wanted me, I was going to do them. And it's like anytime I was on Johnny Carson, it looked like I was doing some kind of movie, whether I was or wasn't.
Right.
And so it looked like I was always working, even if I weren't, it looked like I was.
Right.
And I was trying to like get back what I had lost when I had that embolism. So it's like I was like a little rat in the cage going around in circles.
Keep going and going. Right. Did you like acting more in movies or TV shows?
Oh, it was the same.
It was the same.
The only time it was different was when I was doing it. I did a soap opera. I did The Young and the Restless for about 6 years, and they used 3 cameras.
Okay.
And you do it one time, and you could do it different ways. You can use different hands. Right. You don't have to, you know, when you did a movie, you had to reproduce everything you did. You had to, if you took a sip with a cup of coffee on a certain line, you had to keep doing that for everybody's take. For, you know, for the long shot, for the close up, for the medium, but they don't shoot the way they shoot now.
Yeah, it's
you know,
different back in the day, right?
They use digital, and you know, and it's just different now than it was before.
What was your favorite show or movie to do in your career?
I was just always happy to be working, because I always had bills to pay, and I was always running after money, and I was always trying to make a living, because I was a mom. I had a son, and I was overcoming that embolism that I had, where I lost 3 years right after I had him, and I was just always happy to be working. I'm originally from Sioux City, Iowa, and I really had bad taste in men. I just right now I'm going through a refinancing, which is really difficult because I'm in a 9% loan.
Oh my goodness.
And I'm trying to get out of that, and I'm dealing with California Fair Plan, because I'm in the woods and nobody will insure you unless you're with California Fair Plan, which is like a government thing. Yeah. Because I really am in the woods. I am in a fire area, and I am in the woods. And
so you've been lucky enough, the fires haven't affected you?
No, they
thank God.
They come up about 20 yards behind my house, and then they jump across the street and burn the house down.
Oh my goodness.
They burned the place down across the street twice since I've been here.
Oh, that's
and during a flood, from my house to Old Topanga Canyon, it's like, I can count, there's like maybe 8 houses.
Yep.
And when the flood comes, and it will come again, when it really rains a lot, and the little creek down at the end of the block gets up high, all those houses are 6 feet underwater.
Oh, that's
And it's like, I'll tell you something, if you buy a house, you really have to go around to neighbors and say, hey, what was it? You can find somebody old that lived there for a long time and
What's
say,
it like
what
before
was
I
it like,
moved?
what was it like 20 years ago? Were you here during any big
Mhm.
floods or fires or anything?
Yep.
And because it's like there like are some really expensive houses that
Yep.
I know that when it rains a lot, it's going to be the first story of their building is going to be full of water.
Oh, that's just it's awful. But
I mean, it's
I
like,
would do my homework before I moved or did something like that, because who knows? I mean, that
but
could
you know,
really impact you.
you probably don't know about those things. And you know, I retired and I went to Fiji, and I lived in Fiji for 6 or 7 years, and I came back and I was raped in Fiji. And when I was in my 60s, I was raped by this 23-year-old crazy person who
Oh,
had
I'm so
a
sorry.
wife and a baby and everything else. And they caught him and they gave him 15 years. And he didn't really
Oh
need to
my
go to
goodness.
jail. He needed to go to a nut house.
Oh, Sharon, I'm so sorry. Oh, that's
Oh,
terrible.
well, if you live long enough, you go through everything.
Yeah, you do. You do.
Everybody does.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm just sitting here thinking, now, what am I going to do next? Am I going to act? And it's like, the coronavirus is like, everybody's kind of come to a standstill, you know?
Yeah. It's
I
been
mean,
like 6 months and so
I
many
guess
people just
some
don't know what to do
production
next.
companies are going forward. I guess they say in November maybe something's going to happen.
We'll have a vaccine of some sorts, but much like
Yeah,
you, I mean, it's been day by day figuring out exactly what we can do and what's allowed to do in our life. It's
I know.
scary. It's
I
scary.
know. But you know, on television it says stay home, stay
You
home.
can only stay
It's
home so
like
much, though.
television in the news like scares you to
They scare you.
scares you
They
to
do. I
death.
can only take so much of it myself, too.
And it's like at a certain point, it's like I you know, there was a thing, oh, what is his name? David Attenborough has a thing on Netflix, and he talks about what the white man, it's the white man
Oh, yeah.
has done to this planet.
Mm-hmm.
Because the indigenous people, I mean, they used to have wars and kill each other and everything else, but they didn't burn down part of the, you know, the rainforest and plant fields of, I don't know, you know, crops.
Right.
And it's like, we need the rainforest, you know?
Yep.
And it's like, I don't know, we've got 35% of it left or 20%, or, I mean, it's just, it's
dwindling.
scary how little we have. And it's like, I think he's like 91 or 92 years old. And he's like going on saying, hey, you know, we've got to, you know, our oceans are melting. This is, but it's like, you know, we'd like to be responsible for the whole earth. And in a way, we are responsible for the, you know, the rainforest.
Yep.
Because we just destroyed that. And it's like, while I was in Fiji, I used to go out swimming.
Must have been beautiful there. It must have been.
From the ocean.
Yep.
And I'd go out swimming, and I would see all this beautiful green coral and red and pink and purple and blue coral. I mean, all this coral. And just in the 6 years that I was there, it went, because I was living between two real expensive resorts and I had 5 acres. I was living between these 2 expensive resorts, and all the tourists would come in and they'd go in and they'd touch all the coral. When you touch coral, it dies, it turns brown.
Right.
And it's like, when I left, it was all brown.
Oh, that's sad. That's so sad.
And it's like the Chinese had already fished out I mean, the villages in Fiji, the Chinese had fished out all. There were no big fish left. They'd be catching these little fish like this to eat.
Right. Not the big ones that it usually was.
And
So
they would be
country.
catching turtles. I remember they caught this great big huge turtle, and they were cleaning it out. And the Fijian gave me his heart, and I was holding the turtle's heart, and it was thumping in my hand. And the little kids, there were like little kids around me, and I let them all hold this turtle's heart. And this beautiful tortoise shell that would be worth so much money. I mean, tortoise.
That's a lot.
And it's an endangered species, but they had to have something to eat.
And they were going for the turtle.
And they clean the turtle, and they put the meat back in the tortoise shell, and then they put the tortoise shell, they cook it in the tortoise shell, so the tortoise shell is ruined.
Right.
And you just about die. You think, oh my God, what are you doing? You know? And there's nothing you can do.
Nothing you can do or say. It's just them doing the thing.
Anything. And it's like male-oriented society, and women are like at the bottom of the heap, and they will not listen. I try to get them to beehives. I bought beehives for the village, but they got scared of bees, so they wouldn't do that.
Right.
Oh, they're just, people are, if they're uneducated, there's just no hope.
Yeah, that's what I'm realizing.
They educate the girls, and the boys are the ones that are the farmers.
Yeah.
And it's instead of growing like tomatoes or something like that, they grow these crops where they just sit and drink kava all day long. Which is
it sounds like you were very ready to leave Fiji and come back.
Oh God, I barely got out of there. I barely got out of there.
How long have you been back now?
Oh, since 2009.
Okay,
I've been
about
back
10 years.
Time.
Yeah. So did you want to go back into acting? You've been retired for what, about 10 years?
I did one of these, what do you call these shows? I don't know, it's on YouTube. It was called Broken at Love, and it was horrible. It was this girl with this great big huge nose, and she didn't wear deodorant, and I was playing her grandma.
Yeah.
And I was working with people that didn't act and couldn't act, and it was just a terrible
tough to get through.
experience.
Yeah,
it was just awful, and I won an award for it, but it's one of the, I don't know what they call them, indie.
Oh, it's an indie film. It's like a short film. It's like what, 15 minutes or so? Yeah.
Yeah, it's just awful. There was one guy who was the director that directed one of them, and he was French, and he was wonderful. But usually it was the gal wrote the show, Broken at Love, it was called. And what she did was she wanted to meet young actors.
Yeah.
So she would put them in the she'd interview them and then just write them into the show as being in love with her, chasing her around and everything.
Yeah.
And she was so unattractive. She was talented as far as getting it together and doing it, hiring the director and getting everybody, she had talent in a production kind of sense, but as far as acting, it's really bad.
Was it nice though to get back kind of into the acting kind of field since being out for a while, or?
Well, I don't want to do anything where if I'm not going to get paid, I'm not going to do it.
Right, I don't blame you either. 100%.
I'm just not going to do it.
Yeah.
And if I were right for something, if somebody, I don't know. It just depends on the role. I would probably, if it were a legitimate thing, I would do it.
Yeah.
You know, even if it were a commercial, I would do it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just have to, you know, you take one day at a time.
That's how I'm doing it too.
I just take one day. I just take one day at a time.
That's all we can really do right now, is, you know,
Yeah.
can't really think about the future.
Coronavirus has got everybody.
One step at a time. Sometimes it's 1 second at a time, 1 minute at a time, and
Yeah.
just kind of figuring out what to do next. Well, I'm thrilled, Sharon, that you got a chance to talk with me about everything. I'm so glad that you had some memories from the show, and it was honestly a pleasure to talk with you and have such a great time spending and sharing great moments with you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And as soon as this gets edited and put together, I'll send this to you so you have a copy for yourself and everything. And I think the audience is going to absolutely love getting a chance to hear more about everything that you had to say.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
So, well, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And now I have a new friend. Now I have a new friend, Sharon.
Great. Yeah, we can talk anytime.
Absolutely. Anytime, any place.
Okie dokie.
All right, Sharon. Thank you so much.
Okay,
talk to you later. All right. Bye-bye.
We just want to say thank you to Sharon Farrell for taking the time to talk with us about her time on the celebrity panel of Match Game. We hope you all enjoyed it.